Hey, what is going on guys? RvzStealth here, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a few of the sleeper OP or underrated picks for patch 7.8. So the first champion we're going to take a look at here is going to be Gragas support. Now, if you guys were watching the LCS on the weekend, you know that Smoothie played this Gragas support and they did end up winning with it. I will put up on screen here the runes, the masteries, as well as the skill order that he is going on his Gragas support. Now, he actually is maxing his E out first on this Gragas support. You would think that you would max Q first for the poke in the laning phase. I think the reason to why he's maxing E first though is because he's playing this Gragas more for the all-in than for the poke in the laning phase, and once you have your E maxed out as Gragas, the base damage is slightly higher on the E max than it is on the Q, so in an all-in combo, your E max is going to end up doing more damage than if you would max your Q first. Now he's also taking the Stoneborn Pact, which is really good for the laning phase. Whenever you throw out your Q as Gragas, your AD carry can proc that Stoneborn Pact really easily, and because your Q is on a relatively short cooldown, whenever that's up, you just throw your Q out. It's also a really good zoning tool in the laning phase too, so if you see the enemy trying to go in for a CS, you throw your barrel out and they either have to, number one, not get the CS, or number two, they have to walk into your barrel to get the CS, and if they do that, then you're gonna get a little bit of poke off on the opponent if they do decide to go for that CS. The gank assist that Gragas has is also really good, so if you know how to do the E flash combo on Gragas, it's basically a guaranteed kill if your jungler does come and they do have some sort of crowd control. So just never be afraid to go for that all-in the laning phase as Gragas. If you do end up poking them down a little bit with your Q and you do take the ignite on him, which honestly for solo Q I would probably recommend. He does take the exhaust on the Gragas support in his games, or he did take it in the game that he played, but I think for solo queue, for the all-in combo and just being able to get a really easy kill in the early game, I think ignite is the better option. Now, as for when and when you should not pick this Gragas support, I think he's best paired up with either an AD carry that can chain CC or an AD carry that does have a strong early game. So a few picks that come to mind are like Ashe, Varus, or Lucian. I think with Ashe and Varus, the level 6 all-in combo is just extremely strong. If you do go for the E flash combo on the opponent and Ashe follows up with the arrow, you end up knocking them back with your ultimate. As long as Ashe is like auto attacking and she doesn't disconnect, then you should be able to get a very free kill at level 6. I would obviously try to avoid like Janna or Morgana though. Those are two champions that can do pretty well against Gragas just because of the black shield and the disengage that Janna does have. Now the next champion here is going to be in the top lane and is going to be Sion. So in my last top lane tier list, I kind of talked about how Sion, he should be seeing a little bit of a comeback here in these next few patches, with Nautilus, Maokai, and Poppy all being nerfed pretty hard recently. Sion is definitely the best, or one of the best top lane tank champions that you can play now. I think Gragas and Sion are probably two of the best. I would rate Sion a little bit higher than Gragas just because I think Sion is a little bit easier to play. He doesn't take as much micro skill that Gragas does. Gragas needs to be able to hit like his E flash combo, whereas with like Sion, you just end up ulting in during team fights and you just press your Q and you're gonna do a pretty good job as long as you can do that consistently. So for top lane Sion, most people just build him full tank. He still does a ton of damage like most of the tank champions do. If you can end up hitting like an ultimate combo, or you end up hitting your ultimate, you follow up with your Q and you get your W proc, that's gonna chunk a squishy target down to at least half HP, and if your team does have some follow-up, you should be able to pick up some very free kills when you do engage with Sion. Now the one thing that Sion has over these other tank champions in the top lane, he's a lot better at roaming. Maokai, Nautilus, and Poppy, they're great tanks and they do have a lot of crowd control as well, but they lack the ability to influence other lanes, with Sion, because you've got great wave clear with your EQ, you can use that to shove out waves really fast, and then you can look to either base and go for a roam bot lane, or you can just look to head mid lane and get good roams off. By doing this, you can just help your team out and help your team get a snowball going, and I think that's another reason to why Sion is a little bit better than those other tank champions. The next pick is going to be in the mid lane, and it's going to be Thalia. So Thalia in the competitive scene has seen a little bit of a comeback recently. She did receive a few little buffs over the past few months, and because other mid laners have been nerfed recently too, she has started to see a little bit of a comeback. Now the reason to why Thalia is a good solo queue pick, or to why she does have a lot of potential in solo queue, is because of her ability to fast shove a wave and just look for roams once she does hit level 6. She does have her roaming ultimate, so whenever you do hit 6, you should just be constantly shoving the wave in as Thalia. Look to influence the map, so look to go bot lane or look to go top lane, and if you can do this consistently on the champion and you can get good roams off, then you're gonna have very good success on Thalia. Now, even though Thalia does have a lot of potential for solo queue, she's also a champion that you can't just pick up for the first time and expect to do super well on. She does take a little bit of time to get used to for sure, so if you haven't really played her a whole lot, I would definitely recommend practicing her a bit in normal games or in flex queue. Get your combos down with your W, because I think that's the thing most people struggle with the champion, is just being able to hit your W and knock them back into your E for a lot of burst damage. Once you get that combo down, your one-shot potential and your burst is super strong, but if you can only like hit your Q and only use your Q on Thalia, then she's not really worth picking over a lot of the other mid laners. Now for these last two picks here, we're gonna go back up to the top lane, and the first one is going to be Aatrox. So Aatrox, over these past few patches now, he's received a few little buffs, and they've actually slowly started to make him not that bad of a pick. In the top lane for this patch, he has very few losing matchups. The only champions that he's really struggling against right now are like Pantheon and Malphite. He's actually winning against a lot of the meta top lane picks. He's doing really well against picks like Gangplank, Rumble. He's doing well against Aurelia, Renekton, and he's going even with champions like Fiora and Kled. So overall, he is actually doing quite well in 7.8. I think what gives Aatrox a lot of potential in the top lane is his strong split push and his ability to win the early game against a lot of these meta top laners. So with Aatrox's passive and with his good dueling potential, I think it's just so hard for a lot of these other top lane picks to really go up against him and to beat him in 1v1 scenarios. If you're close in the 1v1 and Aatrox has his passive up, then you're actually losing that 1v1, because if he ends up reviving with his passive and he gets a little bit of HP and you're like barely living, you're on like 100 HP, then you're gonna have to base and you're gonna have to lose a wave or two, and Aatrox is just gonna get ahead of you. His tower diving potential is also super good because of that passive. So if you do end up getting chunked down in the early game by an Aatrox and you're sitting under your tower, then you're probably gonna die to a dive. If the jungler is smart, then they're gonna come top lane. The Aatrox can dive in, he can take the tower aggro, and even if he does end up dying, he's gonna proc his passive and he's going to come back alive, and you're just gonna die under tower because Aatrox is one of the best tower diving top laners. Now, usually what makes a great split pushing top lane champion is their ability to clear a wave super fast and their ability to take down towers really fast as well. And Aatrox is honestly one of the best, if not the best, top laners at fast shoving a wave. If you think about some of the other strong split pushing top laners like Fiora or like Jax, they can definitely clear a wave out pretty fast with their Titanic Hydra once they have that finished. But if they don't have their Titanic Hydra, their ability to clear a wave out is a lot slower than someone like an Aatrox, because Aatrox does have his E as well as his Q, which are both AoE abilities. If he does have his like T-Mat finished, or if he already has his Titanic Hydra, he's gonna one-shot that wave and he's gonna constantly be able to pressure the top lane and just get a really good split push going. Now, Aatrox is still Aatrox though. He does still have his weaknesses of being a little bit of a weaker teamfight top laner. So when you're playing the champion, it's pretty important for you to get ahead in the early game. If you can get ahead and you can constantly be split pushing and just drawing pressure top lane, I think that's the best and the most optimal way to play him. You don't really want to be team fighting as the champion unless you're super far ahead in the early game, because he's definitely one of the best split pushing top laners in this patch. And then the final champion in this video here is going to be W Max Jarvan in the top lane. Now this has become a little bit more popular recently after Jarvan did get a buff to his W a few patches ago. His W now scales with a percent of his max HP. So if you do end up getting a few HP items in the early game as Jarvan, a lot of people will rush a Sunfire Cape. They'll max out their W and they'll also get Ninja Tabis if they're up against an enemy AD top laner. And with that armor from the tabbies, with the shield from your W, and then also with your Sunfire Cape, it's just very hard to beat a Jarvan in the 1v1 and to even break through his shield. So the way you want to itemize on this W Max Jarvan is to try to build as much HP as you can. So I would try to avoid items like Yomu's Ghostblade. If you want to go more offensive on top lane Jarvan, then I would get like a Black Cleaver or a Titanic Hydra, because those items do give you HP. And the more HP that you get on Jarvan, the more your shield is going to be with your W Max. And once you do get like a load of HP with him, and once you start stacking that, if you can end up getting your W off on like a few targets in a team fight, then you're going to be getting over a 1000 health shield, which is just super crazy. So that is going to be all for this video, guys. If you did enjoy, then be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you have yet to already. So thanks for watching, have an awesome day, and I will see you in my next video.